Welcome. Welcome. Cheers to another Monday. We made it, believe it or not. And it is the 24th of May, and it is 2021. And yes, we are still in the midst of solar flares. And if you've never been here before, welcome. This is no man's land. And it's Monday through Thursday. Up until now, it's been at noon Central Standard Time. But you guys, I just took a recent promotion. Now, I work as a forensic counselor. I'm working towards my doctorate in forensic psychology. And I just took a position that I'm really excited about because my husband and I are working towards things and would cost more money and, money. And so we are just trying to invest more, and I'm trying to take care of my dad, and we're just trying to do a little bit more. And that means I'm looking to advance myself always. And this opportunity came up, which means that going live at noon may not be the best fit because I'm going to be working kind of in that Monday through Friday in the legal expert testimony realm of when court is held. So I'm going to be, and thank you guys for joining me last week when I asked you, when should I change the show? Thank you for being a friend. What time should you want to join me again? And of the 211, give or take, I don't know how many of those people were actually real people. Out of that, the majority of you, only 7 people said keep it at noon. So then I was like, wow. Maybe I should not even do it at noon ever. So today will be the last day that it's at noon, and I'll redo all my clip art and my banners and all of my things and adjust the show to go live at night. And it'll probably be at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time because, as you guys know, if you have checked out paranormalsarah.com, I also do private consulting and mentoring for people in their spirituality. And I love doing spiritual counseling and mentorship. And so my Gypsy tribe and the things that I do in my private research as I'm advancing my career, I have to continue to do that as well. So if you are one of those people in my Gypsy tribe, don't be nervous. Don't be scared. We are going to continue. And I'm a Virgo. So usually the more on my plate, the better. And it's been really hard not to have joined you guys on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because the news has just been redonkulous. Now, let me know. Dang, I mod for Mr. Roberts at 9 Central. Okay, Matt, well, let me know because maybe I'll do like 9:30 because bedtime in my house is at 8 p.m. for my little guys. And then I get them in bed and we read and we do the whole thing. And I was thinking, okay, at 9 p.m. I could probably do a show and that would be good. It's not too late. It's not too short. However, that's also when I do a lot of moderating and things like that, checking in with people and checking in with my husband as well. He's a postman, so he gets up early in the morning, and I could even do a 10 o'clock show and would probably be okay. But I'm still in the middle of figuring out when that will be, but don't fret. Don't fret. We will make it work. And you will always be able to hopefully join me on YouTube, on Paranormal Sarah, or on any social media link and keep in touch. And don't forget, email me, guys. Continue to stay in touch with the news near you, wherever you are. Subscribe and join me in the comments below and let me know where you are at and what news you would like to talk about. Because a lot of what we are going to be mentioning are things that you have sent me. So listen up, people. Firstly, I know it's been a really rough year for people in their ethical spaces, right? In their moral high grounds, in their political space, which really instigated no man's land into its birth. Because I've often been a guest and joined into small segments on political shows, but I feel like sometimes they go too far to the extreme, where it's way to this or way to that. And yes, sometimes when I am just reminding people that I don't play for teams, I usually am voting for the person who I think is best. And I'm looking at policy for how I think it should work, not as for a group and not in kind of an idealist, utopia, if you will. I have worked with people long enough to know that usually doesn't work out. So I like to be able to get many perspectives and talk to many people. And I want to encourage you to join me on the social media as I post links and sources. And for those of you who have been sharing all of your own opinions, but to not be segregated or to not get emotionally upset or too passionate, as I know it's really hard not to do, because lately things have really penetrated intimacy in many, 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 many ways. And let's just kind of go right into it because we have a lot to cover, right? Firstly, I know this is a hot topic. What isn't a hot topic these days? So I just kind of say it's not meant to offend you. My father has had to be vaccinated. My in-laws, people that are immunocompromised for certain reasons or held hostage by medical organizations for other reasons. This is the deal. Some people have to get it and some people don't. Some people have a choice and some won't. And I'm not going to discriminate. That's the thing, is I don't want to be discriminated against for any reason. I think that is the whole goal here. And I have long been, gosh, it's been a very long time that I have advocated for a better healthcare system. I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2002. I had not even graduated. I was just out of high school at this point. And this is not something you expect to hear when you're that young. And I didn't understand what that meant exactly. And it actually helped me meet a lot of really dear friends, Marley Gibson, who wrote a book about her experiences on that. And going through what wasn't like, I didn't have to have chemo. I didn't have to do this, because my mother and other people in my family were very integrated into the medical space of questioning and wanting to have better options. So when I was only given one or two options and I said, nah, I'm not going to do that, it allowed me to learn the scope of the medical industry and business for what it is. So when I had pap smears coming back free of cancer cells, and I started to learn how to regulate diet and chemicals going in and out of my body, that's when I started looking into homeopathic, holistic, natural alternatives to most everything in my lifestyle. It became something that, in working in forensic psychology, is quite helpful, because usually you don't have much of a budget. And so hypnosis, aromatherapy, acupuncture, acupressure, emotional release techniques, all of these things are, diet, exercise, tea, meditation. I mean, it's things that we can all do and essentially can be free. Now, going back to vaccinations, I'm not anti-vaccination, but to clarify the difference between an immunization and a vaccine, to understand that you have generic, you have non-generic, that you have some that have preservatives, some that do not, some that have fillers, some that do not. There are certain reasons why Jehovah's Witnesses, as religiously extreme as they are, do not consent to giving their DNA away, and the reasons people feel very uncomfortable trusting a system that essentially creates more patients than it cures. And I would agree. And we are seeing in other countries banning, pausing, states pausing, people see, like, why can't we have a better option? There should be a better option. It's not an anti-space. It's an encouragement to ask questions, to understand more. And over the past weekend, there were some issues, shot or shamed, shall we say, with myocarditis. Now, when my husband had his heart attacks this past fall, myocarditis, his mother having bicuspid issues, my father with heart issues, my grandfather having had a heart attack in his 40s, myself having a heart murmur. Myocarditis. That sounds familiar. That's not a good word to hear. And seeing that is a major, major side effect in long haulers and in the vaccine in an early onset. And then seeing other countries very actively illustrating their Metatron protein, thinking for a second that it would be maybe a wild conspiracy, but then looking further into it and then realizing that a lot of the American publications will not talk about it. I don't even know if we can talk about it on this show, but if you're interested in the vaccinations and myocarditis, which shot is having a higher increase of that, it's something that is to look into. Now, two, Amazon. Now, guys, Bezos, Amazon. My husband works for the post office and yet works late every Sunday. And people go, why? Because they deliver Amazon. Amazon delivers 24 hours a freaking day. And people deliver Amazon more than ever in the pandemic. And some of their employment things, if you are interested in what your employer can or cannot force upon you, they're issuing a phase 2 unmasked green checkmark badge that will allow those with or without the vaccine card, with or without the armband, with or without the green check, with or without. This is kind of an interesting space because like Marjorie Green and even my friend Scotty Roberts, people that I know and people I don't know, small people, little people, big people, black people, white people, all sorts of people seem to be getting Jewish people. Really? No way. They might even know something about that. Minorities of Europe that fled here from something in particular, rhymes with Hitler and starts with ha. Talking about the comparison of an armband to a green checkmark badge of major employers discriminating really against vaccinations or non-vaccinations. And the issue is not so much, well, it's about safety. Safety, guys. I am more concerned about viral meningitis. There are still things out there that, I mean, when we talk about the importance of maybe wearing a mask and how some statistics maybe have changed or not, because if you see how far your spit flies when you sneeze on somebody, 6 feet is not enough. I mean, it's not even a point. And to do this even one time, don't wear, it's not even worth it. If you've watched people, I mean, if you've gone on a ghost hunt and watched on a thermal, I mean, a fart goes the whole room sometimes. Come on, guys. And so the dilutions and this and that, it's very important to be aware of like where the line is drawn. And I think that's where some people, the line is here. Some people, the line is here. Some people, the line is, they don't know because they've not even thought about it. And so what we're asking, and what I think anybody who's very passionate versus the people who don't give a shit, what we are asking is that you do take a moment and think about what it is to be discriminated against and have some kind of a 2-person caste system and who's documented and who's not and who can get it and who can't, because there are some people who are immunocompromised and can't receive the vaccine. There are some people who are allergic to thimerosal. There are some people who don't feel comfortable with SM-102. There are some people who it goes against their religious or even their doctor recommendations. What about those people? Do they suddenly now not have the ability to go in and out of their job despite the fact that they might be wearing a mask or taking all precautions to be very safe? They might have even already had COVID and have the natural immunities. Well, that's not the protein that she created. That's not that. Well, it reminds me of the movie Gattaca. If you've not seen Jude Law in this beautiful movie and what it is like for people to have been genetically modified versus not genetically modified. And if you think it's a conspiracy theory to start wafting off on the mRNA, it's really not. And other countries outside of the United States have much, much, much better medical technology. And they have more freedoms to discuss it and a less corrupt publication process. And I mean, the Food and Drug Administration extends very far and the World Health Organization extends very far, but there are other places throughout the world that do have very important perspectives to share on things that are human issues and ways that other countries are funding their science and ways that America is not. Speaking of the dilutions of more than 20,000, and this isn't just of a medication card or caste system, but of the actual vaccination. I mean, we had the stories of like Kroger's and then pharmacy people running, keeping it unrefrigerated because they wanted to create an issue and people, you know, doing their own little thing. But now we're actually seeing like, and I grew up in Kansas City. I remember the guy I was dating, his neighbor was the pharmacist who had to go and be held accountable. National news, right? I helped him work on his Camaro. he was diluting his cancer drugs, his patients. You buy a certain amount and dilute it, whether or not that was ethical or not, or he felt like it was the best thing or not. You have urgent cares in New York City, predominantly Asian neighborhoods. So, diluting their vaccinations. What? Can they even do that? I thought it came in a box with like no insert and it just came and you did your thing and you pulled it out. No, you do that with you dilute it. You pull it up. What? How does that even work? Figure it out. It's really interesting. Anyway, another thing, and I want to throw out there. Hello, we have Cactus, we have Matt, we have Sarah. So good to see you guys. Seeing familiar faces and new faces. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're not a regular, hey, subscribe and click all the dots so that you can join us on the regular. It's Monday through Thursday, usually at noon. But I just took a new private consulting job that's gonna keep me busy in the afternoon, so I'm gonna move it to the late night. And that's fine. And that's great because then more people can join me that are working as well. So usually I'm working from home and I make my own hours. And so noon was quiet and the children weren't home. But now it's summer, so they're going to be home and it doesn't matter anyway. And so anyway, speaking of, Anthony Darsh joining us in the chat room. He makes me think of videography. He says he's just swinging in to acknowledge awesomeness. Thank you and welcome. It's Monday. He's making his millions and he's a videographer. So I would be wondering on his thoughts. How many of us have worked in videography? We've done photography work. I make music videos on occasion for my husband and because his music is great, but people need visuals, right? And so you go to stock, you go to Adobe, you go to Pixel Set, you go to all the places, and maybe you even film your own. And you know what B-roll looks like, and you've seen it, and you know what CNN's B-roll looks like, and you know that journalism B-roll uses the same B-roll over and over, and it's kind of one of the white flags. But anyway, I know the word infrastructure has been a really hot topic, and the going from $2.2 trillion down to 1.7. And we're already compromising and trying to make issues with the infrastructure. Every time I hear that word as a neurolinguistic programmer, and I think, what does a word instigate? And what do the pictures that they're showing with that word instigate? And I want you to pay attention from now on. When they use that word and from here forth, what do you think of when you hear the word infrastructure? Because, they're always showing the same effing clip art of a bridge or a road or like something quite, government-like. And that's not what it is. We could spend show after show breaking down, but very, very small percentage of this infrastructure money will ever even be seen by any of the likes of us. And it's not going to build bridges and trans and metro transportation and making no. So keep in mind some of these cuts. And speaking of cuts, Kansas City, Missouri, making national police news for its recent cuts, and they're not good ones. So if you guys are some of my friends and family, Tech Nine from Kansas City, you guys look out and reach out to the mayor and check out some of the recent cuts because they're about residence laws and population, and it's kind of not necessarily reflecting a good ratio for you, and it's not a good thing. So just take a look. It's in a book, A Reading Rainbow. Dementia. Speaking of dementia and quoting dictators while you are doing commencement speeches for United States naval places, meow, plagiarizing, meow, half the sky, you mean? You guys, and I haven't been a big political fan. I really actually don't love politics. I feel like I don't want to be a victim to politics. I don't ever choose that narrative. So I want to know as much as I can about it to feel like I can better understand it. And to see, and my cousin, well, I won't even say his name, living in Missouri, speaking of my Missouri family, his son recently in the Naval Academy, Officers Academy. And so keeping in touch with family in that space and being very, very proud and watching the news very closely to see how things are going to be going in his first space in his dress. And then seeing at the graduation ceremonies that there's plagiarizing, there's and misquotes of basically Chinese affirmations to encourage people moving into factories and misquoting Reagan. And it's just one horrific speech after the other. And guys, for neurolinguistic programming and in psychological studies, when you're watching the president of the United States of America speak on a podium in front of its military, whom we just made, again, international news, and not always in the best way, it's not cool. It's not cool. And also not cool, South Korean President Moon Jae-in. I really like that. Moon. I always think President Moon. I don't know if you guys, in watching some of these, because I think it's important to watch it. Again, not on CNN, not on Fox. You watch it, it's dry, I know, but try and watch it live if you can, because half of them get pulled from YouTube, by the way. And see, for example, the Biden, it's 8 minutes of them discussing things recently, and also Kamala Harris and the rude handshake, I think is what you would Google to find that. And just like reaching out to a major world leader and then immediately like just doing things when you know you're on camera. It made me as sick as when Meghan Markle, an American Disney princess, claims not to know to curtsy or bow or to have special manners before the queen, when I would think part of these like ridiculous salaries and things go to teach you how aren't there PR people that like help teach these? Oh, but they've been in politics for so long, they probably didn't even need those people to teach them how to behave in public appearances. Rude. And the first thing I'm going to do is close these private detention centers down, because you know what this is? It's inhumane. Sure. Anyway, that was a quote from Kamala Harris. Despite his own Secretary of State, that would be our Secretary of State, Biden's Secretary of State, in recent Russia, because gosh, did you guys see the Army ads? I was having my husband watch them. The Army ads for Russia's military, then Chinese military, and then the United States military. I posted on my Facebook. It's really interesting. And again, try to avoid the narratives. Just go look at the ads and watch them and see how you feel. And it is a very no man's land for sure on where you walk with this space of who, whether or not we want to encourage what masculinity is or isn't, or what physical standards are or aren't, or what certain just standards of what someone who is going into active warfare should or shouldn't have physically, emotionally, mentally, or what. Man, when you think about marketing and demographics, I look at some of the recent tactics on behalf of the United States of America, and I wonder what are we? But anyway, recently Biden waived some sanctions to the Nord Stream 2. I don't know if you're interested in like Russia collusion and this and that, and who's on where side, and Putin and his nipples while he's horseback riding, and all of these different random things. But certain German energy policies and pressure from other world leaders, it's almost like, again, that we're playing this game of Risk, where people in these major countries are moving in and moving around. And when you say that you don't like this person, and then you do like this person, and then you don't want to get involved, and you want to say that you support a ceasefire, but then you're secretly buying stuff from this country, but then you say, no, we hate this person, and anybody associated with this person is bad, and then you're secretly like waiving sanctions over here. And then in your recent speeches saying like, we want truth over facts. Biden, what are you doing? What are you doing? Your own Secretary of State said, if there's anything I can do, as long as I'm in office, it's going to make sure that we not support the Nord Stream 2. And so you go and do it. Well, right on par with everything else. It's just like you say you're going to do one thing and you do another. I just don't understand. And the fact that we don't understand it, or that it doesn't make sense, is a good indication that maybe it doesn't. So something's going on. Speaking of, and completely off topic, because, well, it's not completely off topic, but it goes down to like gender identity and how much a government should have involved in it. And there's a certain line where, like with critical race theory, we say, well, the government shouldn't be involved at all, right? The government shouldn't be involved. Schools shouldn't be asking people to do this or that or this or the other. And so definitely military shouldn't be trying to indoctrinate, but that's what the military does. And so we understand that there's a certain level of, indoctrination and power there, but then yet we kind of expect to have a certain level of control, but we've been neglect and void. And so we're playing this lack of responsibility, and now we have consequences kind of a thing. And in this, you have to determine where you stand. You have to get grounded. You have to be firm. You have to go, whoa, this is a whirlwind of crazy shit. And I need to determine where I stand. And in this space and hearing many perspectives, something came across my table recently, and this is relevant, working with sex offenders, and I'm still kind of pondering it. So I'm reaching out to you guys and wondering how you feel about this. I want you to, and on your own computer safely, by the way, Bitty Bug Soft Packers. Now, before you go and Google this, just let me explain what this is. So the knitting community is a big community. And the ways in which people hide their Adam's apple or duct tape their breasts, or they used to call it the cluck and tuck back when I helped with drag shows, and it wasn't meant in a derogatory sense. That's just what they called it. And in pageantry, there were ways to make yourself appear more feminine and less masculine, and ways that you altered your appearance to do so. And let's face it, plastic surgery is a huge booming industry. With that, I guess the knitting community did not want to be left out. But now here's the line though, is it's the age. For me, it's the age, and I know it's the age because Bitty Bug Soft Packers are basically little penises. They're tiny little penises. They're quite cute. They look like little finger puppets, like something you might put your index finger in. And then it had little testicles dangling like a Ford pickup truck has behind it, And that maybe this would be something I would even be using in therapy when someone's been molested or raped or abused and unfortunately has already been exposed to such trauma. And we're trying to differentiate your cuckoo from your caca boom bang, because testimony is only going to say, did his penis go there? We need to know the right terms. We need to make sure that someone is speaking in terms we all understand. Language absolutely matters. And there's a lot of sex offenders and people that play this hokey pokey dance, and it's all because they just weren't educated in the right. Anyway, knitted penises filled with like beans or sand, so they look and feel real and have weight, and you put them in your 3, 4, and well, they're made for any age, even infant diapers. So that if your child has gender dysmorphia, which is a mental illness, which you're not supposed to diagnose any child under the age of 8, especially the age of 8, maybe in extreme situations, we do that. That's very, 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 very rare. Not worthy of an Etsy shop making so much, doing so well that people are buying little fake penises to put in their child's underwear to give the illusion of a genital that is not there. And the fact that YouTube finds it appropriate that the show Dick or Dildo is child friendly. And, my son likes to occasionally peruse YouTube, and the fact that he could stumble upon that, but yet my show, I say, is not kid friendly because I occasionally swear and might be talking about topics like this, knitted peckers or packers. What are they called? Bitty Bug Soft Packers. And that maybe not is child appropriate, because my son might overhear and go, what is that? And then I'd have to describe what that is. And we'd say, listen, it's a term that people use to describe your genitals, what you have between your legs that differentiates you from a female. Girls have what? Boys have what? Okay, good. Okay, move along. And that we would leave it at that. But the fact that it might show up at the gift shop as I get off the darn Mall of America is interesting to me, and that it would be such a other than something you find at Spencer's. I mean, remember that one aisle at Spencer's? Like a bachelorette gag gift? But no, these are actually to put in as you might buy your child bunny ears or something. I don't know. I'm really struggling with it personally. And it's something that I am exploring because I just didn't necessarily, so I'm interested in what your thoughts are on that as we continue to move forward through strange news. It's not even, I used to be Paranormal Sarah, but now I'm just normal because the world is paranormal. Anyway, speaking of strange things and crossing the lines and where is your line in the sand? Official testimony, something that is very near and dear to my heart, of the notice to appear. Are you guys, familiar, at least under Trump and in previous spaces, when you have border patrol, you have, like you're driving your RV and you get to border and they say, "Are you carrying any fruits, illegal substances, or blah 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 blah?" And you say, "No, sir." And they say, "Okay." And they kind of look around and the dogs, and you kind of get nervous and nothing, and then you go on your way. And it's much easier to go in than it is to come out, or come out versus come in, and yada yada. It's like jail, right? And that now that does not seem to be the case, and that people just, are jumping through the desert, and thousands of people, yada yada. But recent official testimony, and the reason that this is important is because it is official testimony, is that right now at the border, because things are so overwhelming, that the Border Patrol has said on record that they are doing kind of a light catch and release, even if that, because the nation is just not prepared, and that there is no resource to help them, that things have been kind of shut down in this space, and there's just thousands, and the number of people and children, it cannot be regular. There is no more a stand in line, get a notice to appear, that like maybe you can't, but there's due process, right? That you're doing the things and that you're able to be documented and be a part of this process, that you can have and be on record to have the list of privileges that we as Americans have, right? And that is shortening people when you are not letting them have access to that, and just having them pour in ways that aren't healthy. They're not receiving adequate treatment, and that you have Border Patrol really, at this point, even no longer even an ego, saying it's a catch and release. I mean, we rip, and that the majority of them are drug dealers and cartel, that they can't even do anything because they're not actively working at this point. That to me is kind of really a struggle. And it isn't something that is a part of the infrastructure going on as well. And that to me, gosh, you took someone, just a 20-year-old, saying, "You're going to run for president. What are the things that you'd work on?" Just whatever news stream you're watching, or asking anyone out on the streets, you would see that there's probably a list of 10 things to be working on. And this would be one of them. And right now it's being completely neglected by all powers that be. It's very concerning. And when other countries are straight up saying it's a humanitarian issue, and Nancy Pelosi is getting booed off of her platforms by undocumented immigrants who say that this is just so corrupt and they cannot stand it. This is something that it's not a red or blue situation. This is we need to wake up and smell the coffee, because there's some anyway. It's the words. It's about the words. Speaking of words that we use, and words we can't use, and words we shouldn't use, and rules over here and rules over there. China recently, and guys, there's things you can and cannot say about China, so we have to walk lightly. And I'll move quickly because I'm realizing it's already 12:36. Wow. But China recently, they're dancing on the hokey pokey. Now, mind you, they just touched down on Mars rover. They just had stuff landing down on, now this is not a developing country, but so say they want to be called. Because if you're a developing nation, one that's struggling, and all of our people are struggling, and there's genocides over here, it looks like people have been mass microwaved and we don't know what's going on. That's weird. We're having electronic Havana Syndrome over here. We don't want to join the Paris Accord. But if we aren't a developing nation, then basically, the World Trade Organization is not going to be able to be part of the lobbying. So, oh, no, we don't want to do that. This is kind of, gosh, 23rd probe lands on Mars. This is not a developing nation, guys. Look at their military ad. They actually have real people, actors or not. Our Hollywood is shut down, don't you know? We had a whole animation. Ours was as someone said in the comment section, you had like looked like a Jason Statham movie over here and a Quentin Tarantino movie over there, and then you had Barbie and her friends go to pick up the pound puppies and animated. And yeah. Unity recently, major world leaders, ex-world leaders, go to Google, quote it, see who said it, see people of power outside of the country saying, "You know what, America, you said you were upset about somebody threatening to grab your pussy. Well, now you have one for president." They said, "What? you can't talk like that about the greatest country in the world, or can you? And how many other people are speaking that way about us? And in what position have we found ourselves in now? And is that even a word that we are so offended by that we can't even say it on YouTube? And now that I might just be shut down. Because you guys, when I recently saw that China owns 97% of the United States antibiotics, man, Fauci. Absolutely. You're involved in that. If you're involved in any kind of medical research, 97% of our antibiotics. Guys, how many of you would struggle with that? How many of you know a friend or loved one that needs or has needed at some point antibiotics? Or ivermectin for that matter, and can't get it because it's being on a trial and it's being sued by other. You should check that out. It's a really interesting lawsuit going on right now with ivermectin and big pharma, but we can't talk about it. So be very careful. Nature, storms, volcanoes. I know last week we ended with, and on our astrological show that you'll see us tomorrow doing at 9 p.m. that we do every Tuesday is storms. Guys, we are moving into a big shift, and tomorrow is the full moon. It's a lunar eclipse. Major witches out dancing naked under the moon. And this is going to be a big thing with nature as well, not just volcanoes in the Congo and storms happening over there, but also just keeping in mind that you're going to have air, social drama shitstorms as well. So unity, well, we have, man, what was his name? Did you guys see it on the news? I'm trying to think of what his name was, but he recently called someone an Oreo, Texas County Democrat. And it was between him and a CNN host. And I can't remember the CNN host name. And it was the fact that someone was using the term Oreo. And I thought, wow. And Karens are getting hot about racist terms and terminology. And I got banned from a convention for using the word pollution and hot words. And yet Oreo, black on the outside, white on the inside. Oh, wow. Okay. It's like infrastructure and stimulus and science and all the other stuff that just isn't what you think it is anymore and what you can and can't do. And like, I just was absolutely Barry Bro, we just segued from that topic. Yeah. Yeah, it was really wild. It was just blew my mind a little bit. But these days, again, the news is kind of interesting to watch. Sometimes you wonder, you're like, is this satire? Oh shit, it's not. USA. Rand Paul. Now, I've always enjoyed Rand Paul. You know, he's someone who, especially in the medical community, vaccines and central nervous system, psychological, neurological disorders, Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci and their exchanges over the past week have been very important to watch. And Rand Paul has also taken some podiums talking about like Social Security, which I wanted to watch because my dad was very interested in it, and standing up, talking about really, you guys go watch his statement. I think it was only like 13 minutes long. It's not that long. So if you're not a big Rand Paul fan, not that big of a deal, but do check it out. And I believe it's his Social Security speech is what it's labeled. But he talks about a few things. One, he talks about the infrastructure issue. So he gets a little bit into more of that and how it's, about reparations and defunding the police and education. And then he goes into education, which of course we do have to talk CRT here in a second, because I'm going to be going to a board meeting tonight just talking about that. Well, I won't be allowed to talk actually because all the meetings are closed. But I'll be able to sit there and listen to them make decisions. And the National Science Foundation, which again, something that I've applied for grants and research and have to work through with peer edited research. And hundreds of billions of dollars over the years. And he kind of gives certain little examples that he really finds to be important. And he is talking about billions of dollars, a lack of answers, and most importantly, a burden of proof. And how Dr. Fauci and some of the issues with the big pharma that have really, really put America in a difficult spot. And working in counseling and working, even people reaching out to me being like, do you have psychic awareness of when the shitstorm ends? And what's interesting is for a great many years now, ever since high school, actually. So like, I don't even want to say how many decades that's been now. I've recommended the book Generations. It was a book that opened my eyes to the ability to predict social patterns of behavior. And it recently has a new edition that came out. And then, of course, the new edition, everyone's like, this is the greatest book ever. Maybe Generations was a bad title. The new title is called The Fourth Turn or The Fourth Turning. And it's basically just generations rewritten. So you can find probably a copy of them both. But it's a big book. And in this book, it talks about different phases that people fall into in generations, and that our current generation and phase of crisis in America will be over in 2028. But that in this certain crisis stage, we should expect certain things, and that all of these certain things, gain of function here, issues over there, respiratory illness over there, SW102 over here, Bill Gates over there, all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it discussed in the book, published decades ago. So it gives you a little bit of certainty, and it helps people like Rand Paul talk about not only what to expect, but then apply certain statistics to it, and to just have looked over the last year or two and apply it and go, look at that. looks like it can be predicted. And that this is kind of important to be aware of, because then it, for people who are looking for that final countdown, when they can expect wood costs to stop going up, gas to stop going up, when is there going to be some crazy war? When am I going to start feeling better? What if, blah, blah, blah. You can actually go and look and kind of see the indicators and predictable, little milestones and go there. And as I've often told you, follow the she trail and she will show you the way. CRT, critical race theory. I won't spend too much time on it. I just want to spend enough to ask you guys what you learned and how you feel. You listening. Yes, you. Do you subscribe to 1776 or the 1619 project? I'm wondering how you feel, or if you're like, I don't even know what those are. Do you feel like, and I loved Gothix. She's another YouTube podcast person. She is absolutely fun to watch. Very well-spoken. Matter of fact, I would just recommend to go watch her recent video on CRT. And I believe it's their Brainwashing Your Children, which is a clickbait title. Obviously, she's a YouTuber, so that's her thing. But she talks about like being sold a lemon, like what that old thing means. And the Frankfurt School of Connecticut, and like what that is, and how that indoctrination theories and experiments, basically talking about ways in which you can indoctrinate people to believe that power is this, and that power and privilege are, hand in hand. And I don't know, it really is very much a threat to individuality when you're working in mental health and you see some of the struggles that people in these certain cliques have when they begin to get to a level of dysphoria that there's nothing anymore that they can be proud of, that you have to be apologetic and you feel guilty, and you don't have to. And that's ridiculous. So she kind of mentions the opportunity over outcome, which I think is important to mention in human behavior, right? Opportunity over outcome. What are we teaching our children? What does 1776 versus the 1619 project? And the fact that the majority of schools right now are actually teaching the 1619 project, that CRT is very, very popular. It's funded by private people in most cases, coming in and paying teachers to get to continuing education credits, which usually you have to pay for, and you're making shit wage anyway. So you have to get a certain number of continuing education credits to keep your teaching license. And then someone swoops in and says, let me take you to Florida for a vacation, and you can swim tall cliffs and have vodka and learn about how racist you are. Hey, that sounds great. And they pay you and you go, and then you come back and go, well, I don't have to teach that. And they go, yeah, but you signed a thing when you were there that says that you will, and that you'll at least hand out this coloring book that tells everybody that they don't know what's between their legs, and they don't know what's in their heart, and they definitely don't know what's between their ears, and that they should go ask their nearest government official, even though you can't trust a single person, and that yada, 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 yada. Like, just what? Oh, no. It's kind of scary. And it also, to go down to that NLP and the fact that words do matter, equality versus equity, and what the equity word means, and what the equity lens teaches, and how it makes people feel. It just kind of, when you think about exclusivity or broad access, what does that usually provide? If everybody's welcome and everything is nothing and no one is special, then nothing is special. It's kind of just, it's a Sith space, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. In the long run, it's not very strategic, or it is. And it really breaks a person down, which we can see as mental health and suicide rates are just continuing to skyrocket, which they will. And so this is a really big concern. So here we are in the last 15 minutes, and I'm going to do my best to kind of touch on some weird things, take my questions from you guys joining me here in the chat. You guys were still on the final countdown to UFOs, and that is not going to be considered conspiracy theory or weird news here as of June 1st. So please, if you know someone near you who's extremely religious, I'm very interested in how their religion is handling the mass awareness of the United States and how much they have known about alien intervention and how much they have known about alien things. And recently, especially Biden, I thought this was fantastic because you watch it and it's just cringeworthy of Biden. And he was asked, hey, Biden, did you see Obama's recent interview? And he was asked, Obama directly, we mentioned this last week about, so they're going to be releasing alien documents on June 1st. What do you have to say about that? And Obama's like, yeah, in his very charming way, I might add. There's definitely things we don't know that we know. And yeah, so I definitely know that there's UFOs that we don't know that we know. And he like winks and nods and laughs and leaves it pretty open-ended. And so then someone directly asks Biden, he who takes no questions and gives no answers, I might add, I want truth, not facts. This fucking idiot. And anyway, someone said, hey, Biden, hey, did you see that interview with Obama and what he said about UFOs and how that the UFOs are real and that the Navy stuff is real? And what do you say about that, huh? You should ask Obama again. And then he shuffles off the microphone and, puts his mask on and walks out. And I don't know. I'm just not very impressed with his speech. And it's not that I want someone as entertaining as Trump back in office, because at times that is absolutely cringeworthy as well. But at the same time, to be able to have someone who can address the journalism, the questions, the press, someone who can interact with children, someone who can interact with people, someone who can really just answer a single question ever without ending with, come on, man, or having some strange in between. It was a struggle. And I think when I think about no man's land and my goal of that, Trump definitely was the extreme of excuse me? Like, yeah, you don't think much. Like, whoa, you can't say that. Trump, shut your mouth. You can't say that. And, and absolutely that had lessened and kind of polished up, lubed up, if you will, the ability for people to feel like they just can say that kind of stuff. And both sides of the fence will. And so they do that. And now we're in a space where everyone's offended after being, encouraged to say how they feel. And man, dang, if that hasn't really hurt a lot of people's feelings and it's really hurt the country and the unity. And yeah, Cactus in the chat room says, Jesse Ventura, while I don't appreciate it, all items about him, said one of the best things ever, and follow the money. Oh, for sure. Follow the money trail. It's a gingerbread crumb trail, really. And as David Potter suggests, and it would help if the journalists actually did their job. Yeah, journalist is another word I think that we might have to redefine as a new culture as well in this age of Aquarius, because as of the journalism lately, you don't even need a single source. And it used to be back in my day when we walked uphill both ways, that you had to have at least two credible sources. Two credible sources, and period. And now, I mean, you've got Giuliani screaming like, I need to know the source. If, I'm going to be held accountable for this, then you're going to have to show me my accuser. And man, whoops, that person didn't exist. Oh no. Well, that person existed because I based my other character off that person. Well, shoot. It's like a house of cards. It just starts kind of falling away. And journalism has been doing that for the last 4 years. And that's a real shame. And I think it's been longer than that, dare we say, the Obama, when he signed the ability for journalism to be biased. And that was a shame. And that was a plan. And that was a disservice to our country. And Jesse Ventura, he was here in Minnesota. He did some of the work here in our political space. Now, mind you, he also did a conspiracy show and a big time wrestler and all that. But Jesse Ventura, now not even in the country anymore, was military. And I met him a few times, was really, really nice, always straightforward, very well spoken. And one of the things that he did, which when I moved to Minnesota, I noticed was really strange. They have these, Minnesotans are known for not being able to zipper merge. They're known for not being able to zipper merge. And that is because if you are born and raised in Minnesota, you have these yellow lights on the on-way ramps to highways, where I was taught you get on an on-ramp and you begin to accelerate. And you accelerate on the on-ramp, which is why there's no speed limit on the on-ramp. You're going from 0 to what that usually 70 miles per hour or 55 miles per hour, and that you are accelerating to zipper merge successfully into traffic. However, in Minnesota, they do something real effing weird. They put a stop sign right next to the highway where people are zooming past you at usually 75 miles an hour, because people in the cities don't give a rat, and they're going at least 5 to 10 miles over the speed limit if there's not traffic. And you are at a red light. And Jesse Ventura, when he took public office, said, yeah, shut them all down. Save the electricity bill, turn them off. And lo and behold, there was suddenly less traffic issues and more money for the government. And he just did weird little things that when you travel or when you have different perspectives, or you listen to the people and say, this doesn't work and this is stupid. And you go, oh, that is stupid. We should just do that. And it seems very simple. And sometimes it is Occam's razor. Sometimes it's that simple. It really doesn't need to be more complex. And they're not only used for rush hour, right? They can actually be on at 9 p.m. at night. These crazy things. And then you turn them all off. And the old bumper stickers, my governor can beat up your governor. Yes, and which I thought was funny because as an MU-KU person, went to Missouri, Mizzou, M-I-Z, and that's why, and if you're a Tech 9 fan, if we still have our Minneapolis hip-hop people in here, when he goes, and a build an empire in the zoo. If he built an empire in the zoo, he's meaning Mizzou. Zoo, Missouri, M-I-Z-Z-O-U. Anyway, and that we used to have Kansas KU would come over and say, our coach can eat your coach. And that was kind of funny. So anyway, off topic. You guys, I want your opinion here in the last few minutes. This is something that I find personally interesting, because this is something, and I have a really interesting article that I can share for you guys that I have in my email, because it's an academia PDF, and so I can't really share it on social media very well, it seems. It won't let me. But the Havana Syndrome. So you guys, if you look up strange energy attacks, talk about conspiracy theory, strange energy attacks, like they say up to 120, more than 120. Notice the language. Man, it's like Frank Olson up in here. You have to consider that which have come forward and those who have not. It's like rape. Well, they say only 2 out of 5 women has been raped, but only 9 out of 10 say anything about it. Well, then what does that tell you about the statistics of how we know and who's reported and how we even get those statistics? And could there be a possible fallacy in that space in the reporting? Is there a possible Dominion situation going on here? What are we really counting? And Havana Syndrome has been around for a long time. Talk about MK Ultra, Project Paperclip. It's not just a cool show on History Channel. To be able to look at this, Havana Syndrome is something that to be able to differentiate a traumatic brain injury between like blood-brain barrier issues and other hereditary brain disorders, okay, psychological issues of assessment that aren't just going to be questionnaires, but that might be more subjective and objective and scientific and personable and all sorts of things, not just oh, well, looks like you have depression. Looks like you have a imbalance of dopamine. So we're going to give you a SSRI, but you didn't take any blood. You didn't take any of the blood to give to China. We don't need blood. We don't need an advanced hormone test. I thought you just said it was a hormone imbalance. How much of the hormone should I have? Which one is it? Which one's imbalanced? And how did it happen? What was your name? Anyway, here's your prescription. And it's like, guys, did anybody ever ask about this? No one usually does. And it's an issue and it's a concern because that's not true. Those things aren't true. Those things just aren't. And again, it kind of circled back around to how medicine should cure. It shouldn't harm. Part of the whole Hippocratic Oath is not to do harm. And so how can someone, and many doctors aren't, and that's why the vaccine isn't actually dispersed by a general practitioner. Gee, I hadn't thought about that before. It seems like we're going to drive-thrus with strange people, even military giving us things, or Walmart. I know. Why can't I just go to my general doctor or general physician? Because there's hundreds of them petitioning to be able to talk to their clients and be able to give their patients things. What? Yeah, that's weird. Havana Syndrome. Guys, I grew up on Val Kilmer, on Real Genius. And in psychology and in ethics and what you are allowed and what is standard operating procedure and what is not, guys, the line of no man's land is moving into the general population, and that which is military awareness and used on drones in the sky will be used on the people. Trust me. Trust the Jews and minorities and gypsies in World War II. They will tell you. They could show you that little barcode on their arm. And it's not to help them be able to get their diabetic treatment when they travel and to get on and off a plane easier. And work did not equal freedom. It was a lie. It was a big fat lie. And that's a real thing. And that really happened. So I leave you with that. But you guys, I'm not leaving you forever. In fact, I will see you tomorrow. So I want you to sign up, subscribe, send me a comment. Let me know what you'd like to talk about tomorrow. What is news in your area? And again, my heart and prayers go out to the families that I know I had to be working with this morning because we had shootings all throughout the weekend at Minneapolis. I'm so sorry. Cowboy Jack's people. He was going to be graduating from St. Thomas University and waiting for an Uber. Pow, 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 pow. Well, that's unfortunate. Also had one of the leaders of BLM, Black Lives Matter, at a house party shot. Who was it? What was the color of their skin? Who were they? Was it someone who hated her? Was it because of all the death threats she received? Because of the things she was doing? You'd have to look. You'd have to read. You'd have to check it out. But if you didn't hear about it, you can probably fill in the gaps. So anyway, you guys, I really want to keep in touch with what you are dealing with and to let me know how things are going in your area and what news we need to be mentioning here on No Man's Land. So sign up for notifications so you don't miss out and let me know what your thoughts are. We are going to be moving to the PM starting tomorrow. So it won't just be coffee. Who knows what it might be, but grab your drink, use the potty, get ready, bring your notes, and join me for No Man's Land as we talk casual politics and the grave truth with me, your host, Sarah Soderlund. So until then, guys, until tomorrow, I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Have a good Monday, right? Don't do anything else.